Let's talk about the B word. Before you get your minds in the gutter, no, I am not talking about benchmark tests. I'm talking about burnout, something that has been experienced by educators for a long while and only seems to be intensifying. Now, I'm a big believer that in order to fully diagnose and work through and overcome burnout, we have to be more specific with what is causing the burnout and how we are experiencing it. If you could imagine going to the doctor and the doctor asks you what's wrong with you and you just say, "My body hurts," the doctor doesn't really have a lot of information of how to help you. In the same way, if all we do is just keep saying, "I'm stressed" or "I'm burned out" without the specifics, we cannot deal with it appropriately. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what are the three horsemen of the burnout apocalypse. The three things that, if they are riding together, can make it far more likely that we are burned out, disengaged, and want to leave the work entirely. Here are those three horsemen: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and reduced self-efficacy. So unpacking these individually, emotional exhaustion is kind of what it sounds like, where we feel like our energy is depleted. We don't have the optimism, the enthusiasm, literally the desire to do the work that we do. Now, there are vicarious experiences that can pile onto emotional exhaustion. So for example, sleep or lack thereof can really increase emotional exhaustion. However, other things can also add to it. An increased workload can make it more likely that we have emotional exhaustion. Now, the second horseman is called depersonalization. This is where we feel a disconnect between us and the individuals we work with or serve. So if you feel that moment where you just don't feel a lot of connection to your students, or if you're a school leader and don't really feel the empathy and connection to your staff, it's probably a sign of depersonalization. Additionally, feeling disconnected with the overall cause or purpose of your work can be a form of depersonalization. And the third horseman of the apocalypse is reduced self-efficacy. Now, you might see in the research this described as reduced self-accomplishment. However, in my experience, reduced self-efficacy more encompasses the reality, because so many educators, even if they are succeeding, if they don't feel that efficacy, it starts to diminish their purpose and increases their burnout. Now, it's important to know that these factors don't happen in a bubble. They are a combination with our individual personality traits, our mindsets, our attitudes, things like our sense of control, things like our self-esteem. This is also contained within a school context as well. Obviously, the workload and the interactions we have with other adults, students, and parents can either increase or decrease burnout. And lastly, all of this happens in a societal context with political, economic, social, cultural things factoring in as well. So even though as an educator, external factors impact my burnout, ultimately, my well-being is most within my control and how I respond to these events. So consider how this world that we're living in right now might be exacerbating or making burnout worse. Literally, we're having more work and more challenges than we ever have before, which can increase emotional exhaustion. We have increased stressors outside of our world, vicarious experiences, which can pile that up as well. Now, it's also important to know that emotional exhaustion, when that increases, it often increases depersonalization as well. Now consider that for a lot of us who are in virtual or hybrid teaching, we literally don't see our students in the same capacity. Sometimes we don't see them at all, which again increases depersonalization. Current teaching right now increases reduced self-efficacy because we are in massive learning curves. We are seeing students failing more than ever before. We are stuck sometimes with the standards of 2019 and trying to apply them to 2021 and beyond. So that's why we have to consider, where am I at with my burnout and what steps do I need to take? So although I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of other strategies and ways to deal with this, both from a big picture and individual level, just consider, how would you label your feelings of burnout? What are the little tweaks you can make? Do you need more sleep for emotional exhaustion? Do you need to say no to certain things or activities? Do you need to accept that you're not going to be perfect and that's totally okay? Do you need to give yourself permission to connect with your students just as people, regardless of content, so you don't have depersonalization? Or do you have to remind yourself that you are succeeding every single day because the standards of today are very different than they were 2 years ago. And that little moments of success still mean you are capable of impacting student lives. So more on burnout coming your way soon. For now, just think, how does this apply to your world? And if you're thinking, Chase, normally there are 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Yes, there are 4 horsemen of the burnout apocalypse. And the 4th one is called another frickin' form to fill out.